Have you ever found yourself in a moment of quiet despair thinking, I poured my entire soul into this relationship, yet I ended up with an empty cup? Or perhaps you felt that persistent, nagging feeling that no matter the depth of your efforts, the affection you receive in return feels shallow, almost like an echo in a vast, empty room. Many of us mistake this feeling for an intense, tragic form of love. We believe we are fighting for something beautiful, but what if what you're experiencing isn't love at all? What if, in reality, you are trapped in a state of profound emotional deficit? This distinction is not just a matter of words, it is a critical line between a relationship that nurtures and one that slowly, silently drains the life out of you. In our modern world, the principles of the marketplace have quietly infiltrated the most sacred corners of our lives. We are conditioned by a culture of constant performance and transactional thinking. This has led to a reality where many relationships no longer function as a genuine meeting of two souls, but rather as an unspoken business arrangement, an unwritten pact, cruel in its silence. Our emotions have started to operate on a balance sheet. We make emotional investments, we calculate the risks, and we live in constant anticipation of a return. At the heart of this dynamic is a silent internal accounting that whispers, if I sacrifice enough, if I give enough of myself, they will eventually have to love me back. But this is a flawed equation. The expected return on this emotional investment rarely materializes. What is left behind is not the warmth of shared love, but the cold, hollow emptiness of a debt that can never be repaid. This is not merely a personal failing or a psychological quirk. It is a structural issue woven into the very fabric of our society. The sociologist Eva Illouz describes this phenomenon as emotional capitalism. It's a system where our feelings are commodified, turned into a currency to be exchanged within the market dynamics of relationships. Just as a consumer might take on financial debt to acquire a symbol of success, the emotionally indebted individual sinks into a cycle of sacrifice and self-denial, chasing an idealized version of love that remains perpetually out of reach. This is the new face of romantic suffering in our age. It manifests as asymmetrical relationships. One person becomes the perpetual giver, offering limitless support, while the other becomes the passive beneficiary, often without even acknowledging the profound imbalance. What's worse is that those caught in this cycle often fail to see the trap. They continue to try, to yield, to plan a future with someone who is barely present in the moment. This isn't born from weakness, but from a deeply ingrained cultural lesson that love is something to be earned, a prize to be won through relentless effort. But here lies the fundamental truth. The moment love is viewed as an investment, it is already compromised. The more you invest with the expectation of a return, the further you drift from the authentic experience of love, an experience that is, by its very nature, a free, spontaneous, and mutual exchange. This is not just another video about saving a failing relationship. This is a call to awakening. It is a mirror held up to those who feel perpetually exhausted, used, and emotionally bankrupt. The question we must explore is not, why doesn't the other person give back what I give them, but rather, why do I still believe that I need to purchase love with my pain? This is about saving yourself. It's about breaking free from the cruel logic that transforms beautiful feelings into burdensome debts and turns people into creditors of affection. We will now explore the anatomy of this emotional debt, understand the mechanisms that keep this vicious cycle spinning, and most importantly, discover how to finally break free. Because no one deserves to live their life in a state of emotional deficit. If you have ever felt that you love more than you are loved, that your giving is met with silence, or that you are forever waiting for an emotional return that never arrives, then this journey is for you. The person trapped in emotional debt is not born this way. They are created. They are slowly molded by a culture that blurs the lines between affection and the logic of commerce. From a young age, they learn that love is conditional, something that must be earned through good behavior and performance. They internalize the idea that emotions must be carefully measured, controlled, and managed, and that every feeling is, in essence, a strategic investment. This mindset is not just personal, it is social. It emerges from the intersection of neoliberal capitalism, where everything has a price, and what Illouz calls affective intimacy. This is the world of emotional capitalism, where our hearts become the new marketplace. Over the past half-century, Western society has undergone a quiet but profound transformation. Our feelings, once considered spaces of pure spontaneity, have become territories of performance. The logic of business, effort, reward, productivity, efficiency, has seeped into the most intimate sphere of human existence, our romantic lives. Today, there is an unspoken expectation to sell our personalities effectively, to manage emotional crises with detached maturity, to consistently invest in our partners, and to grow the relationship as if it were a startup. In this framework, love ceases to be a state of being and transforms into a form of labor, a demanding, draining job that rarely pays a fair wage. The indebted person is the one who has fully internalized this logic. They operate on the belief that if they offer perfect understanding, unwavering attention, emotional stability, and infinite patience, they will eventually be rewarded with the love they crave. They live as if they are paying invisible installments on an emotional loan, forever hoping for a profit that never comes. This is not an axiom, yet this mindset is constantly reinforced by self-help books, romantic comedies, and even well-meaning family advice that tells us, if you're good enough, they will change, or keep trying, that's how you prove your love. The problem is that this mentality creates a perverse and painful equation. The more you give, the harder it becomes to accept that there is no return. Because to admit that would mean facing the collapse of your entire belief system, the belief that love can be earned through merit. This is the true origin of the debt. A toxic combination of a promised future reward and the inability to recognize that perhaps it will never arrive. The indebted person lives in a permanent state of emotional anticipation, constantly trying to guess what the other person wants, adapting and even erasing their own needs to keep the project of reciprocated love alive. But this project is, and always was, one-sided. Imagine a bank that keeps extending credit to a customer who never makes a repayment. A bank that tolerates every default and even increases the credit limit, all without any guarantee of return. It sounds absurd, but this is precisely how countless people operate within their relationships. Love, which should be a mutual meeting, becomes a unilateral concession. It becomes a continuous offering of affection, care, and presence to someone who never asked for it, doesn't value it, and has no intention of reciprocating. In this process, the emotionally indebted person transforms into a kind of affection banker. They give everything: time, forgiveness, support, understanding, all without guarantees. Their unconscious belief is that the more they offer, the greater the chance the other person will finally see their value and make a deposit back into the emotional account. But this logic is fundamentally flawed because love is not a credit relationship. The moment it begins to function this way, it is already broken. In this dynamic, the defaulting partner isn't always a classic villain. They may simply be someone who was never truly interested but has grown comfortable receiving a lot while giving very little. They are accustomed to being loved effortlessly, desired without reciprocity, and forgiven without change. For them, the relationship is convenient, but it is not a commitment. Meanwhile, the indebted person sinks deeper. The more they give without return, the greater their sense of investment and the harder it is to walk away. I've given so much, they think, I can't stop now. This is the ultimate trap of emotional banking. Worse still, this pattern becomes normalized. The person convinces themselves they are just being understanding or emotionally mature. But the truth is, they are mortgaging their emotional health. The wise confuse resilience with submission. Deep down, a secret accounting is taking place. Every tolerated difficult conversation, every ignored act of jealousy, every forgiven absence is recorded as a credit, all in the hope that one day the other person will make a large deposit. But that deposit rarely comes, and if it does, it never covers the debt. This is the point where love ceases to be a bond and becomes a burden, a relationship sustained not by exchange, but by the fading hope of it. This is where the silent collapse of the self begins, the feeling of paying for something that was never truly for sale. There comes a moment when the emotionally indebted individual must confront the most uncomfortable truth. The love they were striving for never existed in the way they imagined. What existed was a projection, fueled by their own neediness and a cultural system built on the logic of merit. Love is not a bargain. It is not a reward. It is not a debt that will one day be settled. Real love is a flow, not a demand. It is an exchange, not an expectation. It is an encounter, not an investment. Breaking this cycle requires a deep internal reconfiguration. It means recognizing that unilateral giving is not a virtue. It is a form of self-sabotage. It means understanding that insisting on someone who does not reciprocate is not resilience. It is a denial of your own dignity. It means accepting that if you must constantly transform yourself to be accepted, then it isn't love, it's emotional bargaining. And bargaining is not a bond. It is disguised emotional survival. The way out of emotional bankruptcy begins with a single symbolic act: closing the account. Stop recording every gesture, every silence, every frustration. Stop trying to predict what the other desires just to remain useful. Stop trying to become someone the other can finally love. Because if love only arrives after you have erased yourself, it is not worth having. You are not here to be an emotional ATM. You are here to live in relationships where love is natural, reciprocal, and true. Not a debt that never ends,